The shooting of Trayvon Martin, a trip back from a 7-Eleven on a rainy night in Florida, results in the nation's next big trial. And we're just days away from the start of jury selection. Today, attorneys from both sides already battling in court, and critical 911 calls, a voice heard screaming for help. But whose voice is on that tape? Is it George Zimmerman? His family says yes. Is it Trayvon Martin? His parents say yes. Vinny Politan's off tonight, so criminal defense attorney Holly Hughes is with our in-studio jury here at HLN headquarters in Atlanta. Who do they think is screaming for help? HLN correspondent Gene Casares is in front of the courthouse in Sanford, Florida, where all of this is taking place. She was in court for today's big hearing. In Orlando, criminal defense attorney Diana Tennis, her most recent client, Karen Kelly, just beat a manslaughter charge. In Miami, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Philip Snyder. Also in Miami, Judge Alex Ferrer, host of the TV show Judge Alex. And we've got our trial experts here in Atlanta, Florida attorneys Janet Johnson and John Phillips. Also Mo Ivory, attorney and host of the Mo Ivory radio show. But tonight, we begin with Florida versus George Zimmerman, the next big trial, the case that could divide a nation.
Sounds like a male.
And you don't know why?
I don't know why. I think they're yelling help, but I don't know.
They're wrestling right in the back of my porch.
And someone's yelling 2 doors down from me, screaming, hollering, help, help, help.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your... anything else that you heard?
No, the guy yelling help. Oh my God.
Did you see anything at all, or you just heard screaming?
I just heard screaming and then a gunshot.
I just heard a shot right behind my house.
You just heard one shot go off?
It was either that or a rock at the window or something. I don't know. The guy's yelling help, and I'm not going outside.
Okay. And is it a male or female?
Sounds like a male.
And you don't know why?
I don't know why.
And that screaming was not normal, natural speech. Anatomical or physiological condition of the individual who is going through tremendous duress. Different muscle groups would be utilized to produce that kind of strenuous voice. And unfortunately, science is not here with us to tell.
There was a lot of emotion, a lot of tension in the courtroom today. And folks, the trial hasn't even started yet. Jury selection starts next week, but the focus is on those 911 calls. And the big question, Holly over there with our in-studio jury, who was screaming for help on that 911 call?
That's exactly right, Ryan. And if we can determine that, that is going to tell us so much about the evidence in this case, because George Zimmerman says, hey, you know what? I was getting beat up by Trayvon Martin, and it was me screaming for help. So let's see what our in-studio jury has to say about this. You all heard the tape, right? We've been talking about this. This is going to be a big issue in the trial. So I want you to get your paddles ready, okay? And it's a very serious topic tonight, but we're going to have fun with it. So when you hold up your paddles, I want you to do it in a wave like we do at the sports game, okay? We're going to start. You guys on this end are going to put your paddles up and all the way down the row. How many people, after hearing those screams, believe it's George Zimmerman screaming for help on those tapes? Go. All right, what do we got? Everybody is... oh! We've got a lot of no's, Ryan, but I see 2 yeses in the back, so I want to get a comment. Juror number 10, you've been with us a lot. You're used to looking at the evidence. Tell me why you think that this is George Zimmerman screaming on the tape.
One of the things that I thought about when I listened to the tape was he is completely and totally in duress, and I just believe that is him, to be honest with you.
Okay, wonderful. And let's go down to one of our yeses. David, you're one of our regulars. What makes you think that it is Trayvon Martin's voice we are hearing with those cries for help?
I'm actually not sure whose voice it is. I've listened to it multiple times when it's played on TV, and I'm just not sure about whose voice it is.
Okay. Okay, and Ryan, I think that's going to be one of the big issues, because even the experts so far can't tell us definitively who's yelling for help.
Right, and even our jury split at this point. You wonder what the jury in the case, once they're brought on, will think. I want to bring in Gene Casares, HLN legal correspondent, was in the courtroom today. And Gene, you know what? I first want to play some sound from court, because you can feel the tension as the lawyers are going at it. Let's take a look.
My question is, should we be asking for sanctions for you all for waiting until the last minute to disclose it to us? Well, you don't think it's a fair trial for both sides?
I'm not laughing because I think this is funny. This is far, far from amusing.
Let me ask you this.
We caught you hiding the information and confronted you about it, and you never gave it to us. And we called a witness today to prove that you hid that information and then misrepresented it to the judge.
Sir, with all
That's
due respect,
okay?
Sir, I with respect to the court, I'm not going to get into a banter back and forth.
Wow. Gene, is this a sign of things to come?
Oh, I think it is. You know, it was such a serious moment in the court because the defense was alleging the entire professional credibility of the lead prosecutor of this case, Bernie de la Rianda, because they said that there was a 900-page report about the contents, all the contents of Trayvon Martin's phone, and Bernie de la Rianda knew about it but never gave it to the defense. It was highly emotional, highly volatile, so volatile the judge absolutely stopped the hearing and said, we're not going to tend to this until after the trial.
Well, already tension is high in that courtroom. But, you know, the big issue, whose voice is it on that 911 call? So I want to go to our panel of experts. Okay, guys, one word to describe the screams for help on that call. Janet Johnson.
Chilling.
Heart-wrenching. John Phillips, heart-wrenching.
Agonizing.
Agonizing. Judge Alex, one word.
Desperate.
Diana Tennis.
Irrelevant.
Philip Snyder. Wow. Philip Snyder, one word.
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive. Okay. And Gene Casares?
I was sitting in that courtroom. I heard it within the four walls like the jury most likely will hear it. It was so chilling. It was chilling to hear it in that courtroom.
Chilling. Chilling. Holly Hughes, one word.
Foreboding, Ryan.
Foreboding. Okay, a lot to talk about in terms of Zimmerman today. And not only that, the CCAT trial. We've been following it here on HLN. The defendant himself took the stand. We'll get into that as well on the show. Keep it right here on After Dark.
Proving guilty or not guilty.
This is it. It's a Caltech 9.
It looks like there's some burn there, which would show very close proximity.
We go inside the evidence room. Zimmerman raises the weapon. Now, this is significant.
The cell phone of Trayvon Martin.
Does he look hurt? I can't see him. I don't want to go out there. I don't know what's going on. So they're sending.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your...
It's the chilling call that could be one of the biggest points in this case. But whose voice was it on that 911 call? Well, let's look at some of the evidence. First, Mary Kutcher, Selma Lamilla, they both talked about how they believe it had to be Trayvon Martin, two ear witnesses. Let's take a listen.
We were in the kitchen. I heard the crying. It was a little boy. As soon as the gun went off, the crying stopped. Therefore, it tells me it was not Zimmerman crying. Immediately, we went out the sliding glass door and see Zimmerman over the body with his hands on the body.
We hear somebody say that this guy, it was calling for help, Zimmerman, and that was not happened in my window, in my porch that night.
Now, keep in mind, another witness says he wasn't sure whose voice it was. So then we look at George Zimmerman. Days after the killing, he walked police through what happened, and he said, yes, that was my voice. Let's take a look.
When he was hitting my head against it, felt like my head was going to explode, and I thought I was going to lose consciousness. So I tried to squirm so that I could get, because he only had a small portion of my head on the concrete. So I tried to squirm off the concrete. And when I did that, somebody here opened the door, and I said, help me, help me. And they said, I'll call 911. I said, no, help me. I need help. And I don't know what they did, but that's when my jacket moved up, and I had my firearm on my right side hip.
And then there's Tracy Martin and Sabrina Fulton. Tracy Martin initially wasn't sure whose voice it was. Later came out and said that was his son. It's a point that he and Sabrina Fulton made clear in an interview with Anderson Cooper.
I believe that's Trayvon Martin. That's my baby's voice. Every mother knows their child, and that's his voice.
The screams got more franticer, and at that second that we heard the shot, the screams just completely stopped. He saw his death.
And Holly Hughes, it's one of the toughest issues in this case. Whose voice is it on that 911 call?
That's exactly right, Ryan. And when the jury hears that mother testify, I know my child's voice, you've got to wonder what kind of an effect is that going to have on them. Now, jurors, we talked before. We had two people who thought that it was George Zimmerman's voice. Have you guys changed your mind since hearing these interviews? No, okay, all right, I'm getting a no back there. So let's talk to some of our ladies in the front. We were talking about this on the break, Ryan, and I know number 5, you had some very specific thoughts about whose voice that was.
I'm trying to figure out, if I have a gun and somebody's using their fists, why would I be screaming for help? And if I'm getting wrestled, those calls for help don't sound muffled. They sound really clear to me.
Okay, well, that's a great point, but one of the things that George Zimmerman says is, you know, I didn't want to pull my gun. I was getting beat up. So we'll see if the jury thinks that that's a good defense. Ryan?
Yeah, we'll have to see. And you know what? A lot of you are weighing in online. You're reaching out to us. You got a lot of questions on this case. Let's answer some of them as well. Here's one from Facebook. This one from Denise. She says, how could anyone believe that Zimmerman was yelling for help when he was the one with a gun and Trayvon Martin was just holding Skittles? Okay, Mo Ivory, you have the question. You have 15 seconds. Go.
Exactly, Ryan. How can anybody believe that George Zimmerman was the one screaming for help when he was the one in the superior position? Listen, Trayvon was the victim. You can't go from being the aggressor to the victim all of a sudden. He had a gun. He wouldn't have been the one yelling. Have you ever heard of somebody who's armed and in...
Good. Good job. You made it, though. Diana Tennis, another question for you. You have 15 seconds. It's from Ryan. Why would they be able to bring in technology for the voice analysis when there's no evidence to dispute Zimmerman's claim of self-defense? Zimmerman screaming for help even matches his story from the very beginning. Diana, 15 seconds.
I think the bigger question is whether or not they're going to let junk science in. And if they're not, then the judge is going to say, you're going to have to rely on lay witnesses and your own ears. And I think that's what it's going to come down to.
All right. Kind of evading it a little bit there, Diana, but we got the point on the junk science as well. But you did answer that part, voice analysis, junk science. All right, Judge Alex, 15 seconds. Why does it really matter who was screaming for help? Maybe Trayvon yelled help and then Zimmerman shot him. Maybe Zimmerman yelled help and realized he had the gun and shot him. Does it matter? That's from Gary.
That is the most critical evidence in the case. Whoever was yelling for help is the one that's going to determine the case. If Zimmerman was yelling for help, his self-defense claim stands. If Trayvon was yelling for help, you can't claim that you were defending yourself against somebody who's begging for their life. But unfortunately, I think the evidence is going to be too weak in that category to prove anything.
All right, good job, Judge, good job. All right, so, you guys, you ever play the game Taboo?
Yes.
Okay, so there are a lot of words the defense doesn't want brought into this trial, so what's the prosecution going to do to talk about those words? We're going to play Taboo in this studio, a little After Dark Taboo, to talk about that.
In his possession, we found a can of iced tea and a bag of Skittles and about $40 in cash. Not the goon. Do you have any prior training in law enforcement at all? I mean, any kind of... Just the constitutional law. Okay, so you went through the, okay. But as far as identifying people and stuff like that, as far as what to look forward to make them really suspicious?
Just when we organized an annual neighborhood watch event, they told us, I think, a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. I wasn't privy to that, but if you guys continue neighborhood watch, typically speaking at nighttime, the garb is black on black on black with a black hoodie. Now this guy had a dark gray hoodie, so it was dark, but his pants were beige. Not quite your prime suspect type.
So a lot to cover in the Zimmerman hearings before the trial starts next week, but the attorneys, one big issue for George Zimmerman, filed a motion to ban words and phrases that he calls inflammatory from this trial. You see, Marco Mara says that he's worried about the jury feeling prejudicial feelings, I should say, against his client. Take a look at this wall. See that? These are the words they don't want used. Things like profile, vigilante, wannabe cop. He confronted Trayvon Martin, self-appointed neighborhood watch captain. He got out of the car after police or dispatcher told him not to. So I want to bring in a panel to see how difficult it would be to argue this case without using these words. It's our own After Dark taboo, folks. New game we're playing. You guys ever play taboo?
Yes.
No. Okay, Janet hasn't, so we'll explain it to everybody at the same time. You're going to pick a word. I'm going to hold it up, and you're going to say how you would say it in court if you couldn't say that actual word. Janet, I'll start with you.
I want
You pick
that
this one? Okay. So let's take a look. Wannabe cop. What would you say in court?
A person who aspired towards law enforcement.
That's gonna be powerful for a jury? Okay.
But that's the whole point. They don't want it to be powerful. It has to be neutral for a jury. That's what he's
pushing the envelope, but okay. All right, John, you go.
That's where I'm not going to be good at this game because...
Let's see. This one, see that, folks? Profiled.
I'm going to take my chance with appeal, and I'm probably going to say profiled.
So you're gonna walk in the courtroom, say profiled, have objections flying.
Contempt. Forget appeal. Contempt.
Well, I don't think the motion in limine is going to be granted. If it really was granted, of course, I'm not going to do the judge like that.
Okay, so you're not even going to give a word then. You're going to use profiled.
For profiled, you know, it's tough. It's a tough one, and it's.
Come on, give me a word, real quick.
Profiled.
All right, John, I'm giving you a pass. Okay. All right, Mo picks this one. He confronted Trayvon Martin.
Okay, I would say he pursued Trayvon Martin. He went after Trayvon Martin.
Okay.
He came forth at Trayvon Martin.
Three different options.
Yeah.
Three different options.
Yeah, I can
all right.
keep on going.
Good one. Good one. Now, John, Gene, Philip, I want you to participate too. You guys aren't here. I'm going to pick one for you. We'll start with Philip Schneider. I'll pick this one. Self-appointed neighborhood watch captain. Philip, what word would you use instead? What words would you use instead?
You got Paul Blart, Mall Cop, and you got Batman, the Avenger. So either one would work fine for me.
I want to see him saying Paul Blart, Mall Cop in court. That's what I want to see. Okay, Gene Casares, I'll pick one for you. How about this one, Gene? Vigilante.
Vigilante. Ooh, that is a loaded word right there. That could possibly not be allowed in the trial. Neighborhood watch captain to serve justice. I mean, vigilante, meaning he took it on himself. So that might be a tough one to get in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, though. Neighborhood watch captain to serve justice is an interesting way to put that. Diana Tennis, great attorney down there in Florida. I'm going to give you one as well. This one is, he got out of the car after police or dispatch told him not to. That's a tough one, Diana.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I was surprised that was on the list, actually, because how much blander can you get other than he disobeyed direct orders from law enforcement to stop his vigilante justice?
Oh, that's right. And she puts in the word vigilante. See, that's a great attorney right there. Good job, you guys. All right, let's go over to Holly Hughes with our in-studio jury.
Okay, jury, words are very, very powerful. So I want to find out from you, who here thinks that these kind of words that we saw displayed on the wall earlier would sway the jury? Hold up your paddles, yes or no. Would these words sway the jury? Okay, I see number 8 down here. You're the married mother of 3 sons. So this case kind of hits home for you. Why do you think, what effect would words have on the jury?
I think it would create a bias because you're talking about profile, vigilante, those type of words. I'm thinking for the defense, it would create a bias towards Zimmerman.
Okay, so you think at this point the judge should ban the prosecution from using these words? Is that what I'm hearing?
Not totally, because there are certain things that are part of the report. He did step out of his car. He was told not to get out. And literally, he was a neighborhood watch captain, so to speak. So not everything should be banned.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, Ryan, from our jury is that they want the facts to come out, but not the inflammatory wording.
All right, and that's key. That's exactly what the defense wants in this case as well. So we talked about George Zimmerman. Folks, there is a big case going on in Kansas. Brett Seacast, accused of killing his wife, murdering his wife, took the stand in his own defense today. We're going to talk about that coming up in After Dark.
Profiling is a very emotionally charged word, but we are all profiled, especially when we go to the airport. The issue is racial profiling, and if you want to know if Zimmerman racially profiled Trayvon, look at the many times he called the police on suspicious characters. Are they all black males? If they are, that's a pretty good indicator.